Students with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder display many primary disabilities, which are functional deficits caused by prenatal exposure to alcohol. A slow processing pace is a primary disability often displayed by students with FASD. This slow processing pace means that the student needs more time to think and is simply a result of the student struggling to process information accurately. Some students with FASD also have a slower auditory pace, which means they need more time to make sense of the information they are hearing. Having a slow auditory pace may be like understanding every third word of a verbal direction. Diane Malbin explains slow processing well when she says that people with FASD are 10-second people in a 1-second world. As educators, understanding this primary disability ensures that we are not misinterpreting slow processing as non-compliance or a lack of interest. Students who have a slow processing pace may exhibit behaviors that can disrupt their learning and the classroom environment. These secondary behaviors are a result of the frustration and anxiety caused by not being able to process information quickly enough. Many students with FASD often mask this slow processing pace by using phrases such as, "I don't know," or "I forget." Students have learned to use this strategy and others to buy themselves more time or to avoid answering the question altogether. Students with a slow processing pace may become very frustrated when information or directions are presented too quickly. Their frustration builds and may result in shutdown, which is when the student stops working, thinking, and functioning in the classroom. With some students, their frustration leads to the challenging, acting out behaviors that disrupt the learning environment. So, what can we do as educators to support the primary disability and prevent these acting out behaviors? We can provide appropriate student-specific accommodations. Accommodations are the strategies, interventions, and physical classroom changes that we can make to better support the student's slow processing pace. The first and most obvious accommodation we can make is to provide more time for processing. As educators, we are taught to provide students with wait time when presenting questions. We need to provide even more time for our students who need it. Another accommodation is to reduce the speed and the amount of words whenever possible. In the classroom, giving a student with a slow processing pace a review of the directions or the lesson using key words and at a slower speed will give that student a much better chance of processing the information. Providing a single direction or instruction at a time may also help some students. Another good strategy is to use visual supports whenever possible. An example would be to have the simplified directions written on the board as you give a more thorough explanation. These visual cues are probably the most important accommodation that teachers can make for students with a slow processing pace. Pictures, symbols, and words can be used to remind students what is to happen next. Visual cues are a great support for students with FASD, but will help all of the other students as well. Providing a peer helper or a study buddy can be useful for many students who simply need reminders and prompting. Also, providing repetition and many practice opportunities helps our students to make sense of the information they are processing. Finally, adjusting the work expectations for a student with FASD is another accommodation that can be easily made. Chunking the assignments into manageable pieces helps our slow processing students to complete their work. This strategy, in addition to knowing the academic levels of the student, can greatly reduce the frustration that the slow processing students often feel in a regular classroom. All of these accommodations are about giving students opportunities to experience success. By providing these types of accommodations, we are supporting the student's brain disability, in this case, slow processing pace, and therefore preventing many of the disruptive behaviors we typically see in a classroom setting.